organizers of Music Midtown, a festival that's been held in Atlanta's Piedmont Park since 2011, announced this week that they were canceling this year's event, citing circumstances beyond our control. That announcement went out by Twitter behind me, as you may imagine or may even have seen, this has upset a lot of folks, folks that had tickets, plans to go, and folks that are upset about the likely reasons behind it. So, and this is an event that was expected to bring around 50,000 music fans to Piedmont Park and generate an estimated $50 million of revenue for the local economy. So, again, as you may have seen, there's been a lot of press, both locally and nationwide, about Georgia's gun laws. And while it's not been officially confirmed what the specific circumstances, were that led to this cancellation, the widely circulating rumors are that Georgia's gun laws make it effectively impossible for the organizers of this festival to restrict people from bringing in weapons. So, not to point out the obvious, but there are a number of possible reasons why the festival might feel it necessary to cancel rather than just to allow weapons, including the fact that something could go horribly wrong if people weren't allowed to be screened by security, as one particular activist has demanded. Not only that, many artists' contract writers reportedly required this, and the venues don't want to appear as unfriendly to artists. And apparently, insurance coverage also required this. So these are just different rumors, but it's easy to imagine an insurance company not wanting to insure an event where there may be weapons on the premises, where there is alcohol being served, potentially illegal drugs being consumed. Again, that goes back to the security screening, but just not a good environment from the perspective of risk management, I suppose. Again, we don't know the specific details behind the cancellation, but it appears likely that one particular activist, or gun rights activist, I suppose, played a significant role in that decision. This is a gentleman by the name of Philip Evans, and I just want to say right now, apparently there's been threats online against this guy, doxing. We don't, for the record, do not support any of that, and it is never okay. There's no excuse for threatening somebody with violence or engaging in any kind of illegal harassment of somebody, no matter how much of a jerk they may be. We don't condone that. So with that said, I want to show an email that this gentleman sent to the city of Atlanta. Sorry if it's a bit hard to read here, but this guy is particularly proud of this court case. This Georgia Supreme Court case from 2019, Georgia Carey and Philip Evans versus Atlanta Botanical Garden. And even though he ultimately lost this case, more on that in a moment, this gentleman demanded that the city revoke the permit for this event and complained about the searching policy as well as the no weapons policy. He demanded that unless the organizers followed Georgia law, essentially allowed firearms, then essentially that he was never going to be happy with that. So, he wouldn't have had to sue the city. He would have had to sue the organizers of the event, I suppose. But this is kind of what started a lot of this discussion, at least, about this person's role in causing the event to be canceled, because he also complained to the organizers of the event, although he does deny that he intended for it to be canceled. He says that he only meant for the organizers to follow the law by allowing firearms. But just for some background too, this guy he knows what he's doing. I mean, he's smart, and he does this by design. I mean, he mentions the ticket terms. He's complaining about the fact that the ticket says that you agree to be screened by security when you enter the premises, and that the website says there's no weapons permitted. So he, I guess, bought a ticket so that he would have legal standing to challenge this policy eventually, because this is what this guy does. So he actually went to this case here, the Botanical Garden case. He actually went to the Botanical Garden twice, actually, because apparently the first time nobody said anything about the fact that he had a pistol on his hip, and I guess he wanted to get kicked out so he could challenge and have standing. So he went back and did it again, and this time he did get successfully kicked out, and successfully, well, we'll talk about that in a moment, but challenged the policy. So he ultimately lost the case, but there was a small victory there, as we'll see in a moment. He also sued his trial school district so he could bring the gun inside there. And he successfully got the Mercedes-Benz Stadium to open up a park, a little park outside called the Home Depot Backyard in Atlanta to reverse its no weapons policy, pointing out, essentially in a similar manner to this, pointing out that under this Supreme Court precedent that guns cannot be banned in public parks unless the lessee of the park holds a lease which confers what we call an estate for years, as opposed to another lesser type of property interest. This is not, I mean, it's pretty obvious, I think, that a short-term, like a weekend event, is not going to meet the definition of an estate for years. We won't get into all the details about that. If you want, you can read about those cases more. But I want to actually take a look at about this case. So there was actually a series. This was a years-long litigation. It was actually Georgia's 2014 amendments to its gun laws that are at issue in this case, this litigation, as well as in the Music Midtown issue. So a lot of folks are saying that it's the new constitutional carry law in 2022, which may have played some role in this, but the actual law at issue is 2014 amendment. Georgia has revised its gun laws every few years, essentially getting more and more pro-gun rights every time. So with that said, this is a 2022 decision that actually finally resolved the question of whether the Botanical Garden could ban people from carrying firearms inside, and the court said, this is actually the Court of Appeals, but the court said, yes, this is private property. Again, not getting into all the details about why, it's essentially a 50-year lease, and that's what they call an estate for years, and the court goes into that. But it is private property, and under Georgia's gun laws, private property owner can ban people from carrying guns onto its private property. So it was an issue because the city leases the park to, or not the park, but the land on which the Botanical Garden sits to the Botanical Garden. This is, again, a 50-year lease. So it's public property, but it's a long-term lease. So it was a closer question than one might think. And funny enough, the Supreme Court actually had to kick it back down to lower courts because the lease itself was not in the appellate record. And so the Supreme Court kind of just issued some guidance. And that was essentially a small victory for folks like Mr. Evans, because it meant that now we have an unclear case. What happens if you have a privately organized concert like this, like Music Midtown, but in a very public venue like Piedmont Park? Is that a private event, or is it a public venue? And the answer to that is not really clear. And it appears that this issue is essentially what led to cancellation of Music Midtown. And Mr. Evans is probably right in that he says it was the festival organizer's decision ultimately, not his. This is right, but he was a big part of the reason, to say the least. he made it clear that he was going to not go down without a fight on this. Not necessarily threatening violence or anything like that, but that he was going to drag them into another years-long litigation like he did with the Botanical Gardens, essentially. Now again, there's maybe other reasons, and this is a convenient excuse to blame. I don't know, that's not clear. This is just what the rumors are, and I am presenting them to you, the audience. Please don't sue me, Mr. Evans. No, but without getting into the weeds again on the differences of the types of leases, the bottom line is that people are rightfully now concerned about the future of events like this in Atlanta, because there are many other music festivals that are held at venues like Centennial Olympic Park and Piedmont Park. And it seems likely that given the current state of the law in Georgia, that these organizers may look to relocate their events in the future. And that could mean somewhere else in Atlanta that's private property, or it could mean out of the state entirely. We see the governor of North Carolina tweeted at Music Midtown saying, hey, come to North Carolina, you can ban guns on public parks in North Carolina, and it's a fun and safe environment for everybody. And who knows, the festival organizers could choose to do that, at least in future years. They could simply allow guns on the premises, but again, that presents its own host of problems. Other organizers have done that in the past and still had security screening, and there weren't issues there, but that means trusting people are going to do the right thing, and that's just not always the case, unfortunately. So I think the organizers had every right to be concerned, whether this was actually solely Mr. Evans' doing, or whether he just set things in motion that led to this. I guess we may never know. But again, the bottom line is that this is not going to be an issue that goes away anytime soon unless there are further changes to Georgia's gun laws. So it's something that we'll likely be talking about again. So hopefully this has been informative, and thank you for watching.